and we got into this conference room, and Jordan was just kind of glazed over, detached. So we're asking him where he takes his shots from and where his sweet spots are. And he kind of like snaps to it, and he goes like, "So you guys really want to know about basketball?" We're like, "Yes." Everything changed.
Pure hustle. Pure hustle. The chase is on, irrational. It ain't if you got skills to match, who's making it real? The voice, the horn, the gatekeeper, the wizard, living the life powered by pure hustle.
Hello, y'all. Welcome to the third. Can you believe we made it to three, fellas? Third podcast of the I Am Pure Hustle, keeping it real telecast. I'm here with the usual suspects. Jeff Odiorn is in his spaceship. Glenn Chin is in the yard at sort of a medium security prison, I'm guessing. And Michael Wild is somewhere strange. It's a bar. He's day drinking.
It's a bunker. We always day drink, so no, but it's a bunker.
It's a bunker. It's He's a prepper. He's got 4,000 of those dry mixes of like beans, chili and beans in there. He's going to live forever. Don Transeth, our guest today, who's going to get introduced by Jeff Odiorn in a second, looks like he's at the White House. I don't even know who that is behind him wearing the sash, but it looks so goddamn good. Don Transeth. So, Jeff, why don't you introduce us to Tranny? We've all known him forever, but you know him best. Open the floodgates, kid.
Tranny, welcome aboard. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Coming in from Nashville. Don Transeth, the amongst many other talents, college football phenom, many other hacks in his life, but best known as the godfather of EA Sports. Don was the one who, it's on G's shirt. Don was the one who brought the notion of a brand to not just electronic arts, but to the video game world. And we'll start with that stuff, but he's definitively the godfather of EA Sports. He is my one and only living mentor, and
Barely.
we're digging in.
Barely. He's barely hanging on.
He's living large. No, don't let him fool you. He's living large. Look at this guy. Come on.
Where are you, Don? Don, where are you calling in from?
He's in the twilight best part of his career in life right now.
Yeah, he is. Donnie, where are you right now?
So I am at a sort of secret spot in Nashville. It's called the Standard Club. It's a private cigar, whiskey, and red meat club. And this is the owner's office. He says, "This is where I hire them, and this is where I fire them."
Nice.
Right here. And I kicked him out of the office because, to me, this is the most interesting photo op in Nashville. And so I set up shop here. I thought it would be only appropriate to have a cigar and a little bit of Tennessee whiskey while we chat, because that's what we do here.
Love it. Take us back to the day one, the original irrational belief that made you think this could all happen. Tell us that story.
There were a couple of things. As I understand it, it's like, what's the irrational dream, and then what's the gritty hustle to make it happen?
Absolutely.
That's the one, baby. Way to tell us what our show's all about.
Okay.
He read the prep document.
He's good. I didn't.
So I would say the first thing for me was being a high school kid in sports. I had some unexpected success and was getting recruited to play football. And I was a full 165 pounds, not very fast. And I had I grew up with the Pac-12 before it was the Pac-12.
Yeah.
But I've been to 200 Stanford games with my family. So to me, the opportunity to play in the Pac-12 was like a dream.
Sure.
And I said, if I'm going to give this thing a go, I don't want to have any regrets playing at a mid-sized school or a small school and being good, because I would never know if I could have made it at the top level. So it worked out that I got an offer from Washington State. I went up there. I found out that the guys were bigger, faster, stronger, and I was in, honestly, over my head. But I had a couple of things going for me, and the grit part comes in now, because what would happen every year, and it turned out I was there 5 years on scholarship. Every year, they would bring in the speedy wide receivers from Laney Junior College in Oakland and Fullerton. And I would go from number 2 on the depth chart to number 5. But I would hang in there. And guess what would happen? One guy got arrested. One guy flunked out, didn't go to class. One guy missed his girlfriend. And by the last quarter of the season, I'm playing. Actually started the game in the Coliseum against SC.
Wow.
On a pass. Unbelievable.
That's amazing.
So the thing that I was most proud of in that whole process is that I stuck it out. I kept grades up, so I was always academically eligible, and I lasted for 5 years. And to me, when I talk to anybody that says, "Oh, I played college football," the first thing I ask them is, "How long did you play?" And usually it's like, "Well, I played a year," or, "I played a couple of years." But to actually make it through, something that I was really, really proud of, and it taught me that, you can get in over your head, and if you're cunning and stick to it, you got a chance.
I've seen a picture of you, Don. I'm hoping Michael can throw it in there. A black and white picture of you.
Dude,
in your days at WSU.
Pass.
You know what? You look like a half hair model, half underwear model. You are the best looking player that ever came out of WSU. And maybe the fastest white wide receiver that ever came out of WSU. But that might be a tallest of the pygmy story. I don't know.
I would also say, Don probably wouldn't say it, but talk to us about your team, right? You guys weren't just playing and showing up. It's one of the teams is the best team that pretty much that Washington State pretty much ever had.
Yeah, we ran the gamut. The first couple of years, we were in the bottom 20 in the nation. We were horrible. But by the time I graduated, I think we were ranked 13th. We beat like 4 ranked teams, and people are like, "What the hell is going on in Pullman? Like, you're not supposed to do this." And it was very gratifying, because that's the little engine that could, and a bunch of relatively, no-name 3-star recruits was probably the best that we did. And we were beating teams we had no business to beat, including that Oregon team, including the Huskies, including Stanford right after they came off a Rose Bowl victory. So
hustling.
That is awesome.
Hustling.
I like it.
Yeah. Tell me about post-college and how you got where you got.
Post-college, it's hard to figure out what you want to do when you grow up. And I was thinking I wanted to be something in business, but those business classes were really hard. And I had an advertising professor at Washington State that changed everything. That one guy, that one mentor, and he wasn't a professional educator. He was an ad veteran that did not play by the rules at all in the classroom. He loved the fact that I was playing football, and the doors just came open. So I said, that's what I'm going to do, because there's no right or wrong answer. If I can convince you it's a good commercial, it's a good message, I win. And I don't have to substantiate it with a complicated formula or anything. So he was influential. I went through ROTC at Washington State. I had a little military time But after that was done, I went back to that professor and said, I remember when you said, if you want to have a career in advertising, you have to leave the state of Washington. And none of the kids in my class wanted to leave Washington. There's always about 3 or 4. He had a pipeline to Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University in Chicago. And to my parents' utter amazement, I got in. It was the biggest upset ever. And I got through that. And then the whole objective was to go back, get credentials, get enough experience on my resume so I could go back to San Francisco and have the job I wanted in the area that I wanted.
Are you wearing any socks at all?
I can't remember.
Is Don a no socks guy? Is that what you're implying, Jeff? Never wear socks?
Well, maybe in Chicago. He wasn't, but certainly West Coast. I don't know.
Leg warmers. I'm thinking leg warmers.
I mean, it's sometime in the 80s that I know for sure that I stopped.
Yeah.
He just out of protest, Don? Like, was this a protest against the Hanes Company, or was this just like a personal fashion choice?
You know what it was? It was in college, and because I was one of the scholarship athletes, I could go into the locker room every day. They would hand me a fresh T-shirt and a fresh pair of shorts. So that became my underwear. So I wore that every day. And then the thought of having to throw socks in the washing machine and go through that just didn't make sense. And I have to say I was blessed with dry feet. So I was like, they're dry. I don't need socks. And so I just kind of stopped.
I've never heard that before.
We're breaking
with dry feet. That's
we're breaking news on Pure
I didn't even
Hustle.
know there was a thing called wet feet. I had no idea.
Now we're breaking news. Dry
when you
feet.
sweat a
Don
lot.
Transeth.
All right. Speaking of that, here's your unsolicited trivia fact for this podcast. The average person loses 1/8 of a cup of liquid through their feet every day.
Get out of here.
God.
Yep.
And I got a call from some friends, and they said, you got to come to EA. We're all ending up there. They've got no marketing. They need some help. I think you could do well. And the first sports game that the company ever did was Dr. J versus Larry Bird. It was a very simple one-on-one PC game.
What year are we talking, Don?
I beg your pardon?
What year are we talking about here?
That would have been probably 80.
1980.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it was way back there.
Yeah.
So it turns out that by the time I got there, we had a football game, Madden. We had a basketball game, which Glenn went on to own and reshape in his own image and was a huge success. We had a golf game, pre-Tiger. We had a hockey game. We had a college football game, eventually a NASCAR game. We had this crazy idea for a soccer game called FIFA. So
that'll never work. By the way, that's never going to work.
I beg your pardon?
FIFA, it's never going to work.
No.
Nobody,
Who plays soccer? Who plays soccer?
Yeah. Just the way you say soccer tells me you hated that original game.
So the landscape is that each one of these games is owned by the executive producer. And they're actually, they don't play nicely with each other. They're actually secretly in competition because Scott Orr, who might be running football, didn't want to lose any sales to Rich Hilleman, who was doing a racing game. And so there were these individual fiefdoms. And one day I went into a conference room with one of the executive producers, Don Traeger, and a graphic artist named Michael Kosaka. And we were just sort of brainstorming. And the idea came up, what if we had a brand? So if you played Madden and liked it, and you were looking at that NBA game, you would be more inclined to buy it because it was from those guys that did Madden. And that was a great game. And if you like that, by the hockey game, because by those guys. And so we all agreed, the three of us, that it was a good idea. We talked about the presentation style of the games. If we could make them all sort of have the same perspective and opening, it would be great. And we thought that the most effective way to do it would be to present it the way the games are presented on TV, like ESPN. So then we sort of got as far as talking about a name. And of course, we're all huge ESPN fans. So the working title came out, the Electronic Arts Sports Network, EASN. With it.
Sounds like a copyright infringement to me.
It sounds like.
Well, after that short hour meeting, then it kind of fell into my lap. All right, good idea. You go do that. And so now I'm thinking about a positioning for the brand, rethinking the naming of the brand, picking colors for the brand, benchmarking companies for the brand, setting goals, and most importantly, so the irrational dream is, I kept saying from early on, we will make a top 5 sports brand in the world. That's the irrational dream.
Ooh, lofty.
And this is an environment where games did not have brands. The only brands in the gaming business were the hardware companies.
Right.
Sega, Nintendo.
Right.
You know, those guys, Sony. So, and to your point, Andrew, somebody said, hey, Don, do you think that maybe that's a little bit close to ESPN and it might be an issue? I said, here's the deal. The day that ESPN complains, I will do cartwheels because it means we matter. And today we're at ground zero. We are nothing. And about a year to the day later, our general counsel gets a call from a gentleman that introduces himself as Jim Noel, general counsel for ESPN. And he explains that they've become aware of EASN and they have an issue with that. So that goes to my boss, who we refer to as Smokin' Jack.
Smoking
Jack.
We gotta go see Smokin' Jack. Put your best fedora on.
I love it.
East Coast kind of traditional publishing background and whatnot. He comes roaring into my office and he goes, Granny, we got a big problem. I was like, Jack, what's up? He said, well, ESPN calls and we're gonna have to change the name of the brand. I said, okay. And then he looks at me and he said, so what's the brand worth? And I'm thinking, we've done 2 or 3 print ads in the gaming publications. They're about $5,000 a piece. We put the logo on 2 packages. And I looked him right in the eye and said, Jack, this is $1 million brand.
Based on the $20,000 we've spent, $1 million.
And I waited. Because you could always come back. But I said, that's our number. And he said, okay, I can work with this. He ran off. About 2 weeks later, he comes in and he said, I got bad news and good news. I said, okay, what's the bad news? He said, we have to change the name of the brand. I said, what's the good news? He said, if we do, ESPN will give us $1 million in television time.
Ooh.
I was like, okay, now we could work with that. Because, we probably had $100,000 budget for marketing. Now all of a sudden we're going to get $1 million for TV time. I'm liking that.
ESPN was relatively, they weren't new, but they were not what they are today. They certainly weren't owned by Disney. They certainly weren't.
No.
ESPN was,
10 years old. They were probably like 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
But they were perfect because it was just the hardcore sports guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't overly large, but it was 100% pure audience. So I did what I always did. I called Michael and Jeff to come down for a meeting. We went back into one of those small conference rooms, and I laid out the problem and said we need to change the name, and we're talking about it. And the moment that I remember is, Michael, you were very quiet sitting there, and
as he has been on this call. Carry on.
and we're started talking about options, and finally Michael stands up. He goes, "Well, shit, cut the fucker off right there. EA Sports, done." And we all looked at each other and said, like,
"Oh,
yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
It's tighter." And so we did it. Michael, I think, did you do the redesign on the sports lettering underneath there, or did that go back to?
Yeah, I think we did that with Nancy. I've always liked things in threes anyway. EA Sports
Corey
3.
was involved in that, wasn't he? Or was
3.
Corey not there?
Well, Michael Osborne did the original logo, so we might have sent it back to him for the fix.
I think
But
it was
regardless,
Corey, Nancy. That's who I was dealing with at the time. Yep.
Regardless, the company was okay with it. ESPN was okay with it, and all of a sudden, we had $1 million TV budget. But I want to go back a little bit, because the gritty part of this hustle was selling the brand concept, and the first sell job was absolutely the hardest. We had to sell the concept to our production partners, and they didn't play well with each other.
No, they did not.
And so we're working on it, and I'm thinking about this whole TV style presentation, and I'm thinking they just don't get the idea of the brand. So I went over to Santa Cruz, and I went into one of the surf shops, and I'm looking at the displays, and they had this beautiful gator form 3D sign in the space. And I was like, who made that sign? And they said, well, it's this guy named Matt Makuta. He does all the surfboard graphics and the signage and whatnot. And I said, can I get a hold of him? And I said, sure. So long story short, I hired Matt to make a 3D EASN logo. And then the next part of the cunning plan was we created, I was trying to figure out what the TV producer jacket would look like. And I was thinking kind of something safari-like, with lots of pockets for lenses and tape and all this. And I found these jackets at Eddie Bauer that were lightweight kind of parkas with pockets here, and we did this elaborate embroidery job on the back and an EASN patch on the front, and they came out. They were pretty badass.
I still have them.
So we went in. We called the meeting. We brought all the executive producers in that were doing sports games, and we said, "All right, we got an idea here. You guys have heard rumors. It's EASN." And took the sheet off the 3D sign, and they're like, wow, that looks pretty good. And then wearing the jacket, and they're all like, how do I get one of those? It's like, here's the deal, boys. You include us in your games, you get a jacket. And they're like, okay.
For the price of an Eddie Bauer
jacket
parka.
with lots of pockets.
If it fits on a hat, it counts.
It's all about wanting something that you can't have that you think is cool.
Don,
yeah. So that got us into, now we have a package line look. Now we have a common opening. And going back to the original positioning stuff, people have asked me about the relationship of the brand and Madden. And the more I think about it, you can't have the brand without Madden, and you can't have Madden without the brand. And the reason why Madden was so influential is because Coach was such a stickler for authenticity and detail.
Right.
I mean, he counted the inches between the alignment of the linemen. He told us every year what the new rules and regulations meant in terms of the way the game was played.
Yeah.
He was fanatical about the details. And because of that, we said, all right, if Madden's going to be our bell cow in this brand, it's got to be about authenticity.
Got to be. It's got his name on it. He's like, there's no way you're putting a
Absolutely.
game out with my name on it unless it's the real deal.
No.
Yeah.
But then that had to be a part of our core values is realism. And so the original positioning, the brand positioning was real sports games for real sports fans. It was all about authenticity. And I had to get these guys to tweak their games so that they were as authentic as possible. No flaming, NBA Jam balls in the game. That was for the arcade games.
Right.
We got to be authentic. And, picking colors, I kind of went through all the professional leagues and did a grid. And what came up is the most popular color combinations were red, white, and blue across all the sports.
America.
So it's like, all right, we are red, white, and blue. And then we started benchmarking the companies that we admired. And of course, ESPN was one. We stole their name. Nike was important. Sports Illustrated was important. Upper Deck at that time, the trading card company, was cooler than shit.
Yeah.
They did this sign in downtown Chicago that had a picture of Jordan, and the only thing it said was "Trade Jordan," and people lost their mind.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about the trading cards.
Right.
And Starter. So we stole like the A from either Starter or Converse.
Yeah.
We had the slight slant in our logo was based on ESPN.
Right.
There's a little bit of a star, and you can see in Glenn's jersey, the original jersey, a little bit of a star in the A and the E connection.
Yeah.
That was all Starter and Converse. So we were begging and borrowing because all we wanted to do is look like a legitimate part of the sports landscape. And we wanted to look like we'd been there forever. And you're just discovering us, but we're authentic.
Hey, Don, I thought you were ripping off everybody's logos because you thought you'd get another $1 million in media from each of them.
I know. If we would have known that strategy, we would have been in great shape. So the producers buy in, and now it's time for a TV campaign. And we really didn't have an agency, a proper agency. I mean, I came from big agencies. I knew what a proper agency was, and we didn't have one.
Roy,
so you were working.
Ads.
It was Roy and Vern's House O Ads.
Is that was that Jeff and Michael? Was that the name of you were just freelancers at that point?
Yeah, that was our first agency.
Oh man.
But the interesting thing for me was being an account guy at agencies, being on new business pitches, being screwed over by new business pitches countless times by stacked agendas and bribery and they're all messed up. I said, we are going to run the best agency review in history. It's going to be fair. And it's going to be hard for the participants because we need to understand who our business partner is going to be because our window is short and we have to go from 0 to 90 in 30 seconds. So we opened it up. Everybody on our side was able to submit the names of agencies, and we kind of culled it down. Long story short, we came down to 3. Nike, because everybody worshiped the Nike work. Foot Cone and Belding, San Francisco, that had done the defining Levi Strauss work that was generational, and to this day goes down as one of the all-time great series of campaigns in advertising history. And then Goldberg, Mosier, O'Neill, San Francisco, and I can't remember how y'all got into the mix, but
Well, we almost didn't get into the mix.
They lied.
We
They
were
said they were part of Wyden.
Yeah, you wanted Wyden all along.
So Jeff and Michael were working at Goldberg at the time
yes,
as a team? I see.
yes.
I see how this thievery takes place.
So it comes down to 3 agencies. We call them in for, I can't remember the exact sequence, but there was a preliminary meeting, and we let the agencies show their reels. But the idea was, show us your international reels, show us your award-winning reels, but show us the reels of the people that are going to be on our business. Because I had been a part of all these bait and switch where we did this fantastic work in London, and then you're getting the B team in Chicago. You know, it's like not going to happen.
Right.
Show
happened,
us the fireworks.
They coming for you?
Show us the work on the team that we're going to be working with. That's all I really cared about.
Savvy.
And so we went through that, and then before and these were pretty formal presentations back in the day. Everybody was suit and tie and button-down shirts, and we let them do the presentation, and then we said, "Oh, one more thing before you go, we have a quiz for you." And they're like, "What's that?" It's like, it's a sports quiz. The people that we're going to work with need to know about sports. And they're like, "Well, nobody told us there's going to be a sports quiz." And it's like, yeah, well, here we go. Here's the rules. You can't leave the room. You can't make any telephone calls. And we had put together this list of some of the questions were very specific. Who was the number 1 NBA draft pick last year? You know, who won the Super Bowl? Who was Rookie of the Year in the MLB? And then some were like, who was the most influential individual in the history of sports and why?
And this is 1992 for context for everybody.
Yeah, there was
no early 90s.
There was no Chat GPT to kind of like you just punch it in and kind of give you the deal.
There's no checking up internet. There's no any of that stuff. So it's like you either loved it or you were a poser.
It's called pen and paper.
You know, and then we said, take as long as you want. We'll send in coffee and soft drinks. Let us know when you're done. And then we got the tests back. We had like product managers grading them, and they're going, "Oh, these guys don't know shit about sports." And, you know, so
it's all we knew.
It was great. So we end up with the 3 agencies, and I admit I wanted Nike because I had just fallen in love with their great work. And the way Nike works, as you all know, is they come in with the idea because they are smarter than you and they know your business better than you because they've been looking at it for 2 weeks. And that's it. Take it or leave it.
Right.
And then Foot Cone and Belding came in, and they were more traditional. Here's like 3 campaign ideas, and we like this one. And then Jeff and Michael came in, and they kind of turned the room on its ear. They said, we're going to do a little tissue session. And Jeff started reading scripts, and Michael is a great art director, but not a great artist. And he's doing stick figures, and they're reading scripts, and they're taping them up on the wall. And they wallpaper the whole room. I think there was like 12 campaigns. Well, back to Nike, they had one campaign, and it was a swing and a miss. It was clearly a miss. And I was like, oh, shit. And I said, you know, I understand how these things go. You went through a process to get to your recommendation, and you had a number of other ideas that were under consideration. And I would be very interested in knowing what else you have in the bag that you really didn't show us today.
Give me
And they
the
said,
idea that you didn't like,
Right.
and let's just
Yeah.
prove how good your taste level is or your
and they were
arrogance.
like, nope,
No, we didn't
that's
have
it.
time. Yeah, we didn't have
That's
time to
it.
do that.
So
And we're like,
Wyden and Kennedy was that arrogant at that time.
oh, yeah.
Still are.
That
And I
time.
was like, is that your final answer?
Yeah.
You know, is that it? And they said, yes. And I said, okay. Then get to Foot Cone Building, and they're remarkably expectant. You know, they had a TV on the 50-yard line, and a football player jumped out of the TV. It's like, come on, you know, come on.
Yeah.
And then we had Jeff and Michael, who are just painting pictures through words and sketches. And honestly, there were 4 to 6 of those ideas that we thought were viable. So then we come back internally and we argue and we argue and we argue. We finally say, honestly, the guys that killed it in this process were Goldberg, Mosier, O'Neill, and it was Jeff and Michael. That's our guys.
Nice.
So
work,
then we
fellas.
had to make. Then we had to tell them, and this was kind of fun. Is this worth telling?
Yeah, go.
Oh yeah.
Go.
So then, because some of us have been in the agency business, we know that the ultimate thrill in the agency business is winning new business. It's the other than winning a big national award, I think winning new business is the best thing because it's a fresh start, and you beat out all these other. They knew who they were competing with, and to find out that they beat them. And these 2 young guys were going to be driving the account internally. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So we said, we really can't just call them up and say, hey, you won. So we concocted a plan where we said, we're close, but we have a couple more things we need to discuss. So we want to come in and see you. They said, okay. And meanwhile, we had Chip Lang on the margarita machine, and we had bought bags of tortilla chips and salsa, and they were figuring out how to get the margarita machine up to the rooftop of the agency.
And we're trying to figure out what the hell questions they're going to ask us that we didn't already answer.
And so we get in there, and there's a chalkboard up there, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was like just writing shit. And I wrote like, you won the account or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that what you remember?
In the conference room, the main conference room. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So from that point, we said,
that's all I know.
What did you guys? Jeff and Michael, what did you got when Don and Chip were up there? What did you guys? Obviously, you thought there was going to be some more questions, but when you saw that, what you guys like? Holy shit! Or what? What was your guys' recollection of that?
Yeah, just relieved. Like, all right, we did it. We got it. It was.
There was
super
did you
cool.
guys think did you think you had a shot, Jeff?
No, I mean, we didn't have a shot.
Come on.
I felt like I believed in the work. I don't know what Wild thought. I thought we both were pretty tight. But I remember we did like there was like a 24-hour, 36-hour write down. It was about the taglines, and we were still pushing Spitting Image of Sports, and so I just remember us grinding right before that meeting. Like I remember a couple nights of no sleep because we thought it was a big meeting, and it turned out to be a big meeting. It was just a surprise. So yeah, I jumped across the table and hugged Barb with them. So yeah, it was the first time in my professional life. So I'd only been around for 4 or 5 years at that point, that I was like, holy fuck, this could be really big. This could actually be something really big. And I loved, we talked about this on our first podcast, but I loved the people that I had met on the other side to a person. Julia, Barb, Don, Smoking Joe, or sorry, not Smoking Joe. Smoking, what's his
Jack.
name?
Smoking Jack.
I think I'd remember that. And it was like, beyond that, there was, you and Romer and Getty was on the first basketball game, and Chip. It just was like, this is a cool group of people on the front end of something pretty freaking big. And boy, were we right.
You know what was really interesting too, absolutely correct. Jeff and I basically pitched the EA Sports business with no help from anybody else in the agency. We only had 3 days, so nobody knew about it. It was basically no, it wasn't. It was Brian O'Neill said, "Hey, do you guys want to pitch us? You have three days to do it. I'll come with you, and we'll go do it." No AE help, no support, no doing boards or anything in the studio. We said, "Yeah, we'll do it." So when they actually came and said, "Okay, you won the account," people were like, "What account? Like, what were we pitching?" They had no idea. They're like, "We don't even know what we were pitching." It's like, yeah, because we did this in 3 days by ourselves, and that's what we did. So I think people were kind of stunned at the agency as well. They were like, "Okay, how did we?" Normally, when you get into a pitch, it's like a big meetings. Everybody comes together, and it's like briefings, and it goes on this big, giant, long process for 6 weeks. It was like 3 days.
Totally, 3 days.
Well,
and by the way, I still don't think to this day Fred Goldberg knows what EA Sports is. So,
Poor
Fred.
We built something, and it was a surprise. It was awesome. It was amazing.
Well, how could he know? You stole the business away from him a week later.
It was more than a week. It was like 3 or 4 months.
Oh, yeah.
It was a year.
Oh, it was a year.
Yeah, I guess we did.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about that party. The parts that I remember, because we were determined that once we made the decision, we had to win the hearts and souls of our agency partner. We had to become the most fun, the most important, the most edgy client in the building. So hence the margarita machines and the chips and dips. But we had stickers. And so like a dog marking his territory, we started stickering everything that we could find. Yeah. I remember up on the roof, you had one of those massive radar dishes.
Yeah.
I was like, we need to get one. This is probably after a few margaritas. It's like, we need to get some stickers up there. So eventually we stickered the radar dish. But then I'm thinking, I'm going down into the bowels of the company and I'm going to start stickering. And I'm thinking about this. And I was like, I don't only want the dudes to know that we're here. I want the women to know too. And I was like,
ladies,
where can I go? I said, the women's bathroom. That's perfect. But what's the best place in the women's bathroom? And it's like, well, women always sit down when they go in there. So I waited until the place was empty. I went in and I closed the stall doors and I put the stickers right at eye level so that when they're sitting there looking, and some people came in, some people went out, and then I'm thinking, all right, I've done it, mission accomplished. And I walk out and there's this gal there and she looks at me coming out of this stall in the women's room and she's like, who are you?
Why are you in there?
You're like, my name's Tranny.
I'm Tranny. I'm in charge of stickers.
My name's Don. I'm your new client. And who are you?
I'm your new client.
She said, my name's so-and-so. I said, and what do you do here? She said, I'm Mr. Goldberg's personal assistant. I said, oh, great. I got busted by the owner's secretary.
Nice.
But anyway, it was fun. And that was our whole vision of a working relationship was we want to be the best client, the most important client, the most creative client, and we want to own you heart and soul. And that's the way we treated the relationship. And I think that the time that I spent in the agency business was helpful because I knew how you guys operated and I knew how things went sideways, and I felt like we could do a better job. And the relationship that we had, I mean, it was so great because before every big presentation, I was able to come down to the agency. You would show everything, and it would be like, Larry will never buy that. Bing will never buy that. These are all good. Double down here. And then you would go, great. And you go back and refine that, add some. And the success rate of your presentations was extraordinarily high. I mean, very seldom did things get ripped out because they weren't appropriate. I mean, we sold a lot of stuff with minimal pushback from EA. So it was just a great way to work.
Thanks to you.
Everybody take a second. Everybody take a second and look at how uncomfortable Jeff is with getting a compliment. Look at him. Poor self-loathing
he's
bastard.
good with compliments. Come on.
Oh, he's
totally
good.
You're joking.
No, we talked about this on the first podcast around as a young guy, working with Don and then working with Jeff and Michael, that agency client relationship, I learned from them how to quote, act and give feedback. But it wasn't until years later that I knew that was totally wrong. It wasn't a formal client agency relationship,
Absolutely.
right? It wasn't like when I went to Nike and I was working with Wyden, I was like, holy smokes, look at all these layers of people. And the way we worked, to your point, Don, was, like we worked on each other's business to get to a great place for the consumer. But I didn't know about ad managers and account executives. It was, Michael, like, hey, Glenn, come up here. Let's go. Let's work on some stuff. I'm like, okay, great. I didn't know that wasn't supposed to happen.
Did you know you were running, like you were on top of like a bunch of 12-year-olds who had no idea what the fuck they were doing?
Yeah. I mean, we were pulling our guys out of customer service.
That's right. That's where I was.
That's where you were. That's where Chris Thompson was. That's where
Romer,
Whitey, I think.
Yep, Whitey.
Chip.
Yep.
I mean, these are all kids that were attracted to the company because they loved to play games, and ultimately hiring came down to 3 criteria. You have to be a hardcore gamer, you have to love marketing, and you have to be a sports zealot. And if you can check those boxes, you're going to do fine here. But if you're deficient in any of those, you're going to struggle. And I was deficient in gaming, but because I was running things, I got in.
I was deficient in gaming too. Like I didn't play games before I came to the company. I wanted to come because Dempsey, who was in PR, Dave Dempsey, was my college roommate. And we loved sports. He played baseball at San Diego State. I was giving him shit about working at EA, frankly, for the first couple of years he was there. I'm like, you work at a video game company? Like, what? He was like, hey, we're making sports games. I'm like, what's that?
How many times did I meet Michael Jordan?
Yeah, how many times did you hang out with Michael Jordan? Did you ever do a dinner with him, or was it only shoots?
It was always business stuff. I would say 4 or 5 times. But the first time, Traeger and I went back and we interviewed him, which was amazing because he was always kind of standoffish, and David Falk, his agent, had put together the deal and kind of sold Michael on it.
Right.
But Michael kind of wasn't into it. And Traeger, being a hardcore sports guy and very detail oriented and a super smart guy, he had written out every question he could think about. It was this yellow pad. And we got into this conference room, and Jordan was just kind of glazed over, detached. And Don starts asking him his questions. And then we get up and we have a whiteboard and we draw the court and we're quadrants. So we're asking him where he takes his shots from and where his sweet spots are. And he kind of like snaps to it and he goes like, so you guys really want to know about basketball? We're like, yes. Everything changed because then he was into it. He said, I'm going to tell you this, but don't tell anybody. But this is my go-to spot in the corner. This is where I like to shoot from the free throw line.
Thanks.
And he gave us his whole shot charts. And at that point, he was into it.
Oh,
That's
cool.
awesome. How about Reggie Jackson?
Reggie
He's a
Jackson.
pal, you liked him a lot.
I love Reggie Jackson. So we're doing a baseball game, and we decide that we need
You
a.
didn't do well, right? Like that baseball was never a thing for you.
Well, it did well for a minute, and then we lost the license just when we were starting to get. And
Yeah.
our producer friends decided to name it the most stupid
Yeah.
name in history. Triple play baseball.
Triple play baseball.
Oh,
That was-
I
And the
remember
logic
that.
was if a double play is good, a triple play must be
Right.
the.
Oh,
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What about a home
But at
run?
that point,
That's better than a
what
short
I
play.
learned there
Yeah.
is if you have a good product, it can have a bad name and you can still sell it. If you have a bad product with a good name, you're screwed. So
Yeah.
triple play was okay. But Reggie was brought in as a technical advisor, and it was my responsibility to be his handler. And so we spent a lot of time together. But unlike Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods, who we were allocated 2 marketing days a year.
Right.
And one day was with the studio for all their stuff. And one day was like the New York media tour, Tonight Show, Sports Center in the morning. They do all that. But Reggie was like, I want to know your business. I want to know your most difficult problems. I want to be a part of this company. I'll never forget this. He said, who's your toughest sales issue? Who's the guy?
Right.
He said, let me out. Because he said, and I'll never forget this. He said, nobody says no to Reggie.
Was he right?
Well, I had this guy at IBM that I'd been trying to get a meeting with for 2 years. And Reggie said, all right, here's the deal. We'll play Pebble Beach, invite him to play Pebble Beach, and we'll play as a foursome and have dinner afterwards. And the guy said, yeah, I'll do that. But then Reggie didn't stop there. He took us back to his house that is high above Monterey Bay. And it is like the ultimate man cave. It's got a garage, a 9-car garage, because he's a car guy. And he takes us back there. He said, this is the Rolls Royce, the maroon Rolls Royce that I bought when Charlie Finley gave me my A's contract. And he had the most impressive big screen TV with stereo surround sound. And this is, early 90s. And he had some kind of a big poster bed with a rifle next to it. I was like, this guy is awesome. But I will always say he was the most engaged of any athlete that we worked with, and a prince of a guy. And I love Reggie, and could not be a bigger fan.
shout
Muhammad
out to
Ali.
Mr. October. Oh, Ali.
I don't want to drag
Ali.
you, but I do want to hear a little bit about Ali.
Well, my favorite Ali story, and he showed up at probably at least 3 sales events. So this is the most popular athlete, arguably the most popular person in the world at that time.
Absolutely.
And Sandy Sandoval, our athlete relations specialist, the best athlete relations person in the world at that time. He became friendly with Muhammad Ali, and he would get him to show up at these sales meetings and whatnot. But one day, Sandy comes to me and he goes, "Hey, Tranny, you want to go see Ali at his farm?" I was like,
Hell yeah.
"Are you kidding me?" He goes, "Yeah, we fly into Chicago. We get a rental car that's somewhere in Michigan, I think." So we do, and we go out and we get to this compound that used to be owned by somebody affiliated with Al Capone.
Mm.
There's these Doberman pinchers patrolling the property, and we go in, and it's just Ali, his wife, and the help. He gives us a tour around the property, and he's got this gym, and it's all white. The ring is white, the ropes are white, the walls are white, the ceilings are white, and all along the walls he's got the big portraits of him with presidents and kings and crown princes.
Amazing.
And I felt like I just died and went to boxing heaven. I'm sure this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And he was very gracious. He was not 100% with his Parkinson's and whatnot. He was still engaging, but he had this Coke machine there, and he says to me, "Hey," he kind of whispered, "Do you like Coke?" I said, "I love Coke. Are you kidding me?" He goes, "Press the button." I press the button. Can of Coke falls down. He goes, "It's free." Coke had set him up for life with a machine, and he loved the fact that anybody could just walk up and do it.
Get a free.
And he was doing little magic tricks because he loved that.
Yeah.
And he and
was
Sandy
special.
were gossiping about women and sex and things I can't really probably say. And
Well, we're gonna have Sandy on too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, have Sandy
we're gonna have
doing these all
Sandy
these stories.
tell the great stories.
But the highlight was sitting down at the kitchen table. There were 2 or 3 people that were working out on the property. They all came in. His wife served us lunch, and it was just the family having lunch at the kitchen table. It was just an amazing moment.
Okay, Donnie, I've appreciated all your hustle. You are, in fact, I think your whole career was just hustle. It almost feels made up. It's so good. But I want to know a little bit about what you're up to now out there in Nashville. I know you're not just hanging out in the Nashville White House smoking cigars. What are you up to now, career-wise?
You kind of are.
No, I think you just nailed it.
Is that what you're doing now, Don, officially?
Yeah, it's official business. Well, what happened is I had retired and moved up to Truckee. We had built a house up there, and that was our long-term plan, is to retire up there. And I spent the summer, and my wife and I felt kind of isolated. And it was kind of slow moving into the shoulder season. And we're like, is this what we signed up for? I mean, the summer was fantastic, but you're paying resort prices and everything's shut down and the no snow. And we were kind of at a crisis point in terms of what we were going to do. And because of Jeff Odiorn, he had a client at Gray in New York that was these crazy Nashville guys doing a sports product, sports video lessons for aspiring football players, built around NFL players, the best at their positions. They do a tutorial, and the idea was to capture those and then sell those to aspiring football players. And he's working with these guys in Nashville, and he apparently said, no offense, you guys are smart, you're nice guys, but you're all music guys and you don't have any sports person in the mix. And they said, well, that's true. Do you know anybody? And Jeff said, maybe you should call my friend. I'm sure you said Don, not Tranny at that point.
Yeah. Tranny wasn't popular in the broader audiences at that point.
So I get this phone call just at the time when we're trying to figure out what we're going to do next. And I hold the phone. I'm telling Susan, I said, Nashville. She's like, go, go, go. So I go meet these guys. Um, they're wonderful people. And we said, we've never been in the South, never lived in the South, never been to Nashville. We'll go for 2 years. And so we moved downtown, lived the downtown walkabout experience. And after 2 years, we liked it so much that we said, we're not going back to California. The people are too good. The business community is great. A handshake matters here. You do deals with a handshake. And if you screw somebody over, word gets out, there's no more business. And so we decided we were going to stay, but my company went under. So I'm just sort of passing time. And I find this club where we are today, and it's a cigars and whiskey and steaks. And before my wife came out, I was kind of like that odd guy who had to go out to dinner by himself. And I accidentally got introduced to the club and went upstairs. And I'm like, let me get this straight. I can smoke a cigar here and nobody's going to care, because in California, smoke all the weed you want, but do not light up a cigar, because I'm going to vibe you and maybe report you. But smoke a cigar, have a cocktail. It's a social club, so I could introduce myself to anyone, which I did. I met the most fascinating people, and they had a members meal at the time, which was $8. So I'm like, let me get this straight. I can come over, have a cigar and a cocktail, a meal for $8, meet the most interesting people in Nashville. It's a 1843 vintage townhouse with historical backstory. It's fantastic. So I fell in love with the place, and then I didn't have a job, but I was like, you know what? Nobody knows about this place, so I'm going to do a pro bono campaign. And I find an art director, this old soul in a mountain man body with a huge beard. And I was like, all right, dude, you're the art director that we need. We need a writer. So think about it. It could be your agency. It could be a freelancer. A week later, we meet with for lunch. There's 8 people there, and he brings his entire agency management team. And it turns out that the CEO of the agency is, he and Jeff are the best writers I've ever worked with, bar none. And that's a high bar. So we become friends. We do this campaign. We win every award available. That art director is art director of the year in Nashville. And we start working together, and I'm listening to him patiently complain about the agency business and how he got into it to make great advertising, and all he's doing is giving speeches, managing budgets. And I'm patiently waiting for him to say, let's do something on our own, which ultimately we did. So for the last 9 years, we've had the brand hotel. And the clarity that we had at the outset was, at this point in our lives, we're only going to work with people that we like, products that we like, in places that we like, and no assholes. And that's our true north. And we're going to do everything on a project basis so that it's easy to hire us for a project. And if you don't like us, don't hire us back. If we don't like you, we won't come back. And so that was sort of the irrational belief that we could create this little agency with just the 2 of us, and a business model like a television production company where you don't have staff. You just go get the people you need that are perfect for that assignment. And we've been in the business so long. Carrie knew every good creative person in the South. I had West Coast people. So we did it. And so right now, this is taking a lot of our time. This
I love
is
it.
a brand called Whiskey Gypsy. It's owned by Eric Church and his partner Raj Alba. We've introduced 3 whiskeys ranging from $65 to $200. We have a new cigar client. But we've kind of made this pivot from sports to music. So we're working with some music artists, some music venues, and it's just been this incredibly gratifying time where it's like all dessert and no vegetables. We don't find ourselves in bad positions that we can't extract ourselves from. And the business has come and gone and come and gone, and we just keep chugging along. But it's all about people that we like, products we like, places that we like.
Nothing about you surprises me, Don. You've been an inspiration. I think earlier one of the boys mentioned mentor to all of us for about 30 plus years, and I'm so happy to see that you are still hustling in a second, third, fourth act. And let's be honest, Nashville's lucky to have you. You are officially now the Don Father of Nashville.
Well, let me say this. The 4 of you have been so incredibly instrumental into any success that I had that I'm forever indebted, because Jeff and Michael, with that campaign, with the vision, creating the voice, creating the lifestyle, expanding from a gaming company to a sports gaming company. And then Glenn comes in and helps make it a lifestyle brand and makes it as cool as can be on the ground.
Yeah.
And you have the defining voice, Andrew, that everywhere I go and I mention EA Sports, the first thing they say is your signature line.
Right.
Throw it to me, Andrew.
EA Sports. It's in the game. Don Transeth is in the game.
Yes.
It gives me chills to hear you say that to this day.
All right, boys, we got to run. That was an amazing, amazing session with Dandy Don Transeth.
First of many. There's so many more stories to tell, and we are all so grateful to you, Don.
Woo!
I'll drink to that.
Look forward to seeing you. That's a wrap, fellas.
Pure hustle. Pure hustle. The chase.